5th, 2021.
And I'll read the script here, Jack.
Very good.
Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 23, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Yarmouth Community and Economic Development Committee is being conducted via remote participation. All votes during the meeting will need to be conducted by roll call. No in-person attendance will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access and participate in proceedings as provided for in the order. Public participation will be permitted by allowing members of the public to join this meeting via Zoom or via the telephone, and comments can also be sent into email to kpetticini@yarmouth.ma.us. And Mr. Chairman, if you just take a roll call quote to enter into a meeting quorum, we can begin.
Please, I don't have an agenda in front of me. Would you make the roll call for me, Kyle?
Yep, sure. Steve?
Here.
Mary?
Here.
Jack?
Yeah, yeah.
Joanne?
Here.
And then Ryan is absent, Ken is absent, and Peter should be joining us shortly.
Very good, thank you. What's the first item on the agenda, Kyle?
Yep, the first item is just a quick update on the budget because you have a few requests before you tonight. So I just wanted to make sure that you had the most accurate budget in front of you, which was in your packet. Not sure if we need to necessarily go over it. Not much has changed since the last time we looked at it. But you do have funds available. The one thing to note, I think I noted in my email, but I'm not sure if we talked about it at a meeting, is that we did get clarity from the finance department that the short-term rentals will be included in your allocation. So that's good news. So, we were looking at two different potential numbers. You guys should be getting the higher of the two numbers. This is the number that's going to be going to print, 446,295. So in addition, so this is what you have available at the moment, but hopefully town meeting will allocate this money as well, which would give you this for starting in next fiscal year. So with that, your first request is from Kathy Williams has a couple memos to present. Kathy, I don't know if you want to.
Sure. Sure. Yep. Thanks, Kyle. The first memo there dated March 19th is related to the Parkers River Bridge. You guys had kindly given us $55,000 towards decorative lighting. We have been able to find other funding sources, which is what we always try to do, and you tap into town resources last in order to fund the majority of the decorative lighting. I am asking to keep approximately $20,000 so that we could add brackets and banners and maybe even railing flower pots that hang over the railings to decorate the bridge at a later date. So the original ask was for $55,000. I'm hoping to retain the $20,000, so that would be giving you back $35,000 in tourism revenue preservation.
Kyle, we want to take some action on those?
First, I just want to note Ryan Castle just arrived at the meeting. So for quorum purposes. So just to note, what Kathy's referencing is this line item right here, this $55,000 Parker River Bridge, I can't speak, Parker's River Bridge lights, $55,000. So basically the offer is to kind of return 35,000 of it, Kathy, correct? Leaving 20,000 left in this account. So you could return that to your public improvement expense account line item.
So move. Do we need to actually accept the money, Kyle? I mean, or do they just return it?
Yeah, it's just kind of like shifting in buckets. So yeah, we'll just shift 35,000 from the Parkers River Bridge line item to public improvement expense.
All right, I'll move to approve that.
And I second it, Kyle.
All right. So we just need a roll call vote. So Steve?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Jack?
We lost Jack.
Did we lose Jack?
He's not on it anymore, is he? There he
Must be
is.
muted. Here he is.
Yeah, Jack, you're on mute.
Still on mute, Jack.
All right, thank you.
There you go.
Anyway, I guess what wasn't sure whether we need to take some action on the return of the 35,000 and reallocating the 20,000.
Yeah,
I
so
made
the
a motion
35,000 is
We'll call for a vote on
reallocated.
that.
There's a motion on the table and seconded to reallocate 35,000 from the Parkers River Bridge lights to
Great.
public improvement expense. That would leave 20,000 still in the account for the Parkers River Bridge lights. You're the last vote. Everybody else has voted aye.
I am
Aye.
not, but I,
Oh, sorry, I've missed Mary. I'm not good at the roll call, and also Mary.
thank you.
So sounds like that's
Great, we're
unanimous.
coming close on.
So it's helpful to note with your next discussion that, you know, you've now added 35,000 to the public improvement expense line item because you now have a request from Kathy. Go ahead, Kathy, if you want to.
Good timing, Kathy.
I give it and I
Kathy, are
take it
you-
away.
You save that money just so you can get this next thing done?
Yeah,
I don't know what you're talking about, right?
method to your madness.
We're going to take it out of one pocket and put it in another one.
I hope so. That's going to be the request anyway. Back in January, you guys had authorized $43,000 towards the design and permitting of the event space. And at that time, it was subject to determining what were the allowable uses for the event space. Subsequent to that meeting, we did engage Special Town Council McGregor and Legere to clarify what recreational uses would be allowed as it relates to any Article 97 limitations that are on the property. Their legal opinion was that Article 97 would allow for exactly what we had always envisioned, which is that occasional temporary uses under a revocable license on a portion of the project, such as drive-in movies, concerts, festivals, or similar live or recorded events or performances. And that he also indicated that that can include the things that we're proposing, which is some infrastructures and some buildings. And it's not an issue if it requires paid admission. They also actually looked at commented in their review that we could even do some more broader recreational types of activities that might include, we're not proposing this, but could even include athletic fields or courts or a dog park or playground. One thing that we might have considered in sometime in the future was some type of theater, stage, or band shell in that area. They really, it was a very promising conversation, and it sounds as though the key is to avoid a use that would indicate or present some type of exclusion of the public to a very large portion of the project for a property for a very extended period of time. And that would be concerned about being designated as private exclusive use, which would be seen as some type of disposition of Article 97. So I think we have done that due diligence and got a confirmation that what we had originally planned on doing there is something that we can continue doing. Subsequently, we also had further conversations with Beta, who's the design consultant. We're working very, very hard to engage. And they had some modifications to their original proposal when they had allocated. There's basically three areas of this project. There's the Riverwalk Park, and that has funding from a variety of sources to fund for the design and permitting. There's the boardwalk, which has one source of funding, and then there's the event space, which we're hoping would be funded, the design would be funded through the Tourism Revenue Preservation Funds. When trying to take their proposal and move things around and put money in the different pockets of those three different elements, some things were missed in the previous scope that they had done. They didn't have construction admin or survey of that area or permitting and bidding included in the event space or any type of contingency. So the number that's being presented to you is slightly larger than what you saw before, mainly because some of those items had not been included in the original Beta proposal being allocated to the event space. It was in the total, it just wasn't being allocated in the right bucket, so to speak. And the second thing is the original other funding that we were going to be using, which was the reappropriation of the 2019 annual town meeting funds, is being reduced from 60,000 to 40,000 to allow us to do things like pay for special town council and other items or development costs that might come up for that. So essentially the total estimate for the event space for design and permitting and bidding, for construction management, and then giving us some type of contingency so we have a little bit of wiggle room totals $137,500. 40,000 of that would come from that other funding. So it would be 97,500 from the Tourism Revenue Preservation. We received the vote for the 43,000 on January 14th, subject to that determination from Special Town Council. So the actual new request would be for the 54,500. And when you take into consideration the reduction or the return back of the 35,000, it's really just an increase of physical improvement fund at, of about $19,500.
So Kathy, actually, most of the actions we're talking about are not taken by us, but by the DISAC committee, right?
I'm sorry, I'm
I
not
mean,
following, Jack.
The request for the extra funds, is that coming from the DISAC committee, the selectmen? Who's it coming from anyway?
It's essentially coming from staff and the DISA because they want to see the project move forward. But right now, we don't have enough funds to sign the design, permitting and bidding contract with Beta because we don't, the original CPA funds and the land water conservation funds were not allocated for the event space itself. It was only allocated related to the Riverwalk Park and or the boardwalk.
Right.
Kathy, can you just tell, what does the design include? I'm just curious.
Well, one of the things that includes obviously is we need to finish surveying off that area. We didn't survey the whole thing when we did the original feasibility study. We'd have to redo all of the wetland, the resource delineations, because those are only good for 3 years. Hopefully that will go faster because they've already delineated them, but we're going to need to delineate those. The event space itself has a whole task, which includes the a preliminary design. I included that as an attachment to my memo because that's the biggest descriptor related specifically to the event space. And then it would include preliminary design. What they typically do is they'll do a 30% design and check in with us to make sure we're all doing, they're moving in the correct direction. And then there's a 75% and 100%. Those are considered permitting design plans because those are the level plans that you would need in order to apply for all of the various permits that are required. And because there are a lot of resource areas on this site, there's a lot of permitting. There's not that many related to the event space, so we've kind of dodged that bullet. It's more just including things like the zoning permitting included in the event space. And then once you have your permits in, you would do your final construction documents, which would incorporate any changes or modifications associated with any permits you receive. And then we would go out to bid for the project.
So would, is Fifth Element in the conversation of the design of the space since they're an event management company?
There's been a lot of discussions back and forth with Fifth Element with regard to what services they could provide us.
Yeah.
And we really want to have, I think the one thing that we really have found from last year, and I think Kyle has a great memo in here with regard to the sound study, that the real emphasis is that we really need to know what's the appropriate location for a stage. Where's the appropriate location and type of equipment? We've been trying to work with Fifth Element, but quite honestly, it's very difficult to work with someone who is in another country and can't even come into our country. And they were looking for significant amount of money to do that analysis. In order to give you guys options, Kyle has gone and tried to get some additional proposals and cost quotes from other acoustical engineers. And we did receive a very good one, I thought, from Reuter Associates. They're not as local as we'd like, but they're in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I think, Mary, you had provided us with a name of someone, but they were,
Yep.
but they were so busy that he couldn't do it, and he recommended Reuter Associates, and that's who we're working with. We had a lot of great emails back and forth yesterday, and I think the work that they, I think would be beneficial for us to do is they were going to go and do some type of model sound, a computer model of the sound in order to help identify this best stage location and what type of equipment could be used. They were also going to go out later and try and do some background noise analysis so that they can get an idea of what is that background noise level that we could want to know how far we can go above that and be reasonable. And then also giving some type of report and presentation to this committee and the DISAC committee via Zoom. So I think getting that information and getting that as quickly as possible is helpful, because I think that's what we're going to need to get to beta so that they can do their event space preliminary design, because that's the anchor for any type of layout. That's going to be with, with regard to mainly a lot of electrical, but also how would you orient some of the other components around that? Where would you have your food area? Where would you have supplemental parking and that type of thing?
Thank you, Kathy. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Kathy, good job. I just, sorry to be a little dense here. I just want to make sure I understand the exact telling us.
Sure.
So for this an additional 54.5 that we're talking about, we will get some design, permitting, and bidding for the event space, as well as some work done on the acoustics
No,
for the site?
no, that's separate. That's something that you guys had voted separately. I believe you had $10,000 allocated for that, or I believe maybe it's $9,850 for the Fifth Element contract. I think what we'd like to do is consider moving that over to a different acoustical engineer so that we can get that information quicker.
Right. Understood. So Beta would sub out with this other entity to do that.
No, I think you guys would contract with them directly, and that information would then be provided to Beta.
Yeah,
Part
I'm
of
gonna
their
have an update
contract.
I'm going to have an update on that after we get through kind of this.
Okay. All right.
It's all related.
Yeah, it is.
And so at some point, the public will be able to comment on the event space design, what it's going to look like.
I guess there will be drive-in site utilization committee meetings that are open to the public where the drafts will be presented. So it's up to the chair to take public comment. He has been taking public comment during the design phase of the project so far. So I would anticipate.
Okay. All right.
So does the bidding mean RFPs, or does the bidding mean after you have all the public input, then you put it out to bid?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're designing it, permitting it, developing your construction bid documents with your specifications, your technical specs and the plans, and then you're going out to bid to contractors.
Okay.
Do we have any?
One thing regarding that, Kathy, are we doing a typical design build? Is that what we're looking at?
Yes, we're going to do a typical design it, bid it, then build it. We're not doing design builder or project manager or any of those types of things.
Okay. I would like, if we could, talk a little bit at some point, not today, because it's probably more of a lengthy conversation, about construction management at risk as another way of putting this out to bid. But we can talk about it some other point.
I think if you're going to get into something like that, that is probably something that's out beyond the abilities of community development. That might be something where the DPW would have to become involved earlier. Right now, the way we've kind of been breaking up the chunks of work is community development will do the design and permitting, be the lead for that. And then once it gets to bidding and construction, then the DPW takes over.
Yeah, okay.
Very similar to the Parker's River Bridge.
Yeah.
Kathy, both projects can't run side by side, right? The event portion and the park portion. I mean, the park's the priority, right, to begin that project first. Is that correct?
Yes, I think the contractor would be given the entire bid. It would be for the Riverwalk Park, which I consider to be the park itself by the river, the boardwalk and the event space all together. How they do that work and the timing of it, that might be something that we might have some flexibility in with regard to when we could have maintain maybe the event space, get it up and operating earlier. But I don't know enough about that right now in order to be able to say for sure.
Kathy, just a question on Beta. We do not yet have a contract with them yet, right? Part of this process is to get an appropriation, so to speak, so we can give them a dollar amount to include. So we don't have anything with them yet.
We've been working extensively back and forth editing this cost, this proposal and the scope of services to get it to what we were really looking for. And there's a draft actually with interim town administrator Bob Lawton for him to start reviewing, obviously subject to getting this funding today. But yeah,
Okay.
we can't sign the contract if we can't show that we have all the buckets
All
of
the
money.
funds. Okay, so this is an important step to say, yeah, the money's available.
Correct.
Okay. And I do see in the scope of work for the beta that there is one public meeting that they say they
Oh,
could
that's true. Yes, you're
accommodate.
right.
Is that a public hearing? Is that what, how would you?
We could make that a
characterize-
public comment meeting and get
Yeah,
the word out.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Good point. I forgot about that.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that's in there, actually.
Yeah, they did a good job with the public input meetings before on the park and the boardwalk.
Kathy, do we have any idea when we can get a shovel in the ground? You can see how gray my hair is.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the end of 2022. It's painful for me to
Okey-doke.
say that.
Well, you can't do it this year. I mean,
Well,
Yeah.
it's gonna take a while to permit everything.
Right,
Right.
yeah,
So
the wetlands and everything.
exactly.
All right, so
yeah.
we need a motion now, right?
I guess the only question I have for you guys is, do you need a motion on the 43,000 to kind of fully allocate that because you had it conditioned before? And then the new allocation.
I don't think they need a new motion on the 43,000 personally, but you guys can if you want to, but you would certainly need one for the 54, obviously.
Yeah.
Kathy, just a question that I don't know if it's been answered yet, though. I know that where the driving site committee stands. What about the selectmen? Does anybody have a clue where they stand on this thing? Are we going forward,
Oh,
or
I think,
are they okay with what was discovered by the town attorney?
yeah, I think they were. I mean, when we met, the Dissect met with them not that long ago to talk about interim events for this coming season. So they're certainly supportive of this whole project.
Okay. All right, so the uses that the town attorney said was okay, 97 usage didn't conflict with it. They're okay with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Okay.
Like I say, they're
Steve,
looking to have things for summer 2021.
yeah, Steve, their biggest concern still was just the exclusivity. That
Yeah.
basically not to have anyone in there, like for an entire season.
Yeah, gotcha.
We're happy that a lot of the funding was coming from someplace else. Would someone like to make a motion that we will?
So I'll make a motion that we $1,500 for permitting and bidding.
We have a second?
Is that from physical improvements, Steve?
Yes, sir.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for roll call vote.
All right, I'm just gonna go by my screen, I guess then. Joanne,
Yes?
Mary,
Yes,
Jack,
Yes,
Ryan,
Yes,
Steve,
Yes,
who am I missing? Is that everybody?
I think so.
I believe so.
Oh, that's a unanimous vote.
so.
Kathy and
can
Kyle,
I-
thank you for all
Yeah,
your work
can-
on this.
Yeah, great work. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank
Kathy,
Yeah,
I know
thank you,
to the other
guys.
members, it doesn't look like we're moving fast at all, but this work that Kathy has done with Kyle is demonstrating, even though it's slow, it's demonstrating that we are moving to get things ready to permit and bid it at some point. So congratulations on that. And to that end, I was wondering, Kathy, you must somewhat of a tally on how things, a timeline, how things are progressing. I'm not asking you to reinvent the wheel, but maybe we can just have one of those ready for us for our meetings every month.
Yeah, I actually have something. Whoops.
Kyle, if you can just, show that to us when she gives it over to you in the
Yep.
package, that would be great.
Yeah, I have a little timeline that kind of shows the whole thing, and I could certainly give that to Kyle.
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Great.
Yep. Thank you.
And kind of related, I'll kind of just go over it kind of quickly because it was pretty much already covered. So you guys previously allocated $9,850 for the Fifth Element contract, with the idea being that they could kind of help provide the inputs needed, as Kathy was saying, for the design of the event space. So, we've kind of come to realize that the real input that we need is the sound analysis, the sound study. And Fifth Element doesn't necessarily specialize in sound consulting. They're more event space consulting. So with that in mind, it probably makes more sense to try to hook up with somebody who's a sound professional who specializes in this work, since that's what's really needed for this project. So we are currently, as Kathy said, trying to obtain a quote for that work. It's either going to be at the same price or less, I would guess. So
Sound consultant shouldn't cost you more than $2,500 for that space.
yep. So we'll
The
be
decibel level meetings.
so we'll probably be presenting that to you at your next meeting, which
Yeah.
will be on the 8th.
And I know I've said this before, but if they can give us, whoever is engaged to do the work, if they can give us, how shall I say, some descriptions as to what makes what sound in what area and show that. So a lawnmower makes a certain sound of decibels versus an engine from a jet plane and everything in between. So we have it's not only us, but the abutters have something to look at here as well.
So Steve, and the other thing, when we had talked to the sound engineers, for someone like myself who lives right there at that neighborhood, the other big thing is because it's right on the water, is the density of the air changes so frequently there that also affects the sound.
Yep.
And that's something that the sound engineer is going to have to address in this study.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep. Good points.
So
Stay tuned
Kyle,
on
with,
that topic. Kathy, did you have anything you wanted to add on that?
No, I think it's covered pretty well.
so Kyle, are we ending our relationship with Fifth Element that really?
That hasn't been determined yet, and that's for you guys to determine. But it's looking like the services that they are looking to do for the site don't really make sense for what's needed. So that's why we're kind of pivoting towards more of a sound engineer.
And do we have a contractual arrangement with them now?
I'm not sure if anything has been signed yet. It's not going to be an issue because no work has been.
Did it expire? Did
Yeah,
the
I'm not
contract
sure.
expire?
It probably did.
Yeah.
I thought it expired in December.
I think you're right.
Okay, all right.
Kathy and Kyle, if you guys want, the chamber would be able to help you locate if you'd like to find another event management company to consult with that's more local. I'd be happy to help you find someone.
Thank you, Mary. Anything else on Fifth Element? Move along now to the next agenda item.
Yep, so the next
If
agenda
anyone-
item is discussion with Mary on her CDBG action plan. So Mary, you can take it away. I don't know if you have the materials ready, but you can go ahead and share anything you'd like.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Hello, I'm Mary Wagon. I am the town's affordable housing / CDBG program administrator, and thank you for your time and your agenda tonight to talk about our community development block grant program, which we often just call CDBG. So the town of Yarmouth CDBG program provides affordable
Go ahead, Mary,
housing,
have the floor.
economic opportunities, and a suitable living environment for the residents of Yarmouth. And these funds are provided by US HUD. And while Yarmouth is one of the smallest entitlement communities in the country, usually in the bottom 10, we, effectively and strategically plan out these funds for the maximum benefit for our residents. And one of the really nice things we do with these funds is we develop new programs and kind of can spin them off into other funding programs. If you can create a program under CDBG, you can create it under any funding source. The federal requirements for CDBG are onerous, and typically, there's stacks of manuals you have to look through whenever you're developing something new. But anyways, I wanted to get your feedback on the best way to use these funds to develop economic opportunities in Yarmouth. We're developing our action plan for next year. And we also have a considerable amount of money for our COVID relief program. That's a subset of CDBG that was enacted from the CARES Act, which needs to be used to prepare for, prevent the spread of, or respond to the spread of COVID-19. So, and Kyle, if you could share my first page. Yeah. So there's the list of things you can do with CDBG under economic opportunities. There's many more things you can do. These are the kind of things that we've talked about in Yarmouth. So that's job retention, job creation, special business assistance, such as working capital for a small business, spot blight removal, building facade and sign improvements, job training, public infrastructure improvements, installation of broadband. So we have a survey out right now on SurveyMonkey, which has those same questions. And my big question to you tonight is, which thing here would be the highest priority, in your opinion, to make economic opportunities in Yarmouth? And Kyle, if I could now share my screen.
Yep, go ahead.
So I gave you a, I don't know. Can you see that? I don't know.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, good. So I gave you a budget in your packet, but actually I forgot to add in the column for carryover. So that kind of over to the right, that gives you an idea of the budget we're working on. The lines for economic opportunities is the job retention and job creation program, which we'll probably keep in the budget. That's for small businesses that have been impacted by COVID, so that they can keep their employees. The next line is special business assistance or general economic opportunities. And the next line is, and that's 45,000. And the next line is spot blight removal, which we usually just put in a budget of 10,000 annually. So I'd like to kind of open it up and hear your thoughts about it.
Well, I mean, Mary, at the last meeting, we discussed pretty strongly that our top priority as this group is going to be installation of broadband.
Okay.
So I, if you look at that, I don't know where, because I see that at the top, but I don't see that I don't know what that would be. Maybe it's help business remain open or help business retain and create jobs. I don't know of those. Like, are you looking for the priorities of those things listed or those things further up above? I guess that's where I'm confused at.
Well, if you want, if we wanted to go and start, working on broadband installation on the budget that I'm sharing right now, that would be $45,000. If you were to take away blight, which you could, if that's what you would like to do, that would give you 55,000. I hesitate to defund the job retention, job creation right now, just because even though we haven't had a complete application from businesses in town for these funds, I'm a little nervous about making that zero.
Mary, while you're on the topic of blight, could you just give a kind of brief overview about, how the town's program for blight removal works now? Just because we were, as a committee, the committee was talking about maybe expanding it or doing their own kind of program. So it'd be interesting to see kind of what the existing program is like and how often it's utilized.
So, pre 2010, the town used CDBG blight removal frequently. I think we did 4 to 5 sites. And then we started to marry blight removal with the site redevelopment. So there's other blight that's been removed from Route 28, but the parcel wasn't left vacant. It was made into a park or affordable housing, or, you know, some areas we didn't even spend money. We just offered new zoning or technical support from the town. So if you did want to go forward with the spot blight removal program, usually $5,000 to $10,000 is enough to stir a company's interest, a business or a property owner's interest. We pay for the disposal of the materials at the site. We try not to pay for labor, because then all of a sudden you have prevailing wages, and that can carry over to the redevelopment of the site. So we try not to do that. But what the program, the CDBG program, would love to hear, and we don't have to do it tonight, but a list of sites along Route 28 in West Yarmouth and in South Yarmouth that would be good to, you know, remove that spot blight. It does take a lot of staff time because we have to convince the property owner that this is good for them and make sure they don't lose any development rights by taking down a building. But we have worked with that before. We typically ask, if it's not part of another type of redevelopment for the property, we usually ask that the property is not used for storage of cars or pods or heavy equipment, and that they keep the that agreement on the property for 5 years.
Mary, what's the criteria for these property owners? Do they have to be low to moderate income?
No,
Yeah.
not for split, not for
Not for blight?
no. So there, right. So there are 3 national objectives. One is you have to benefit, has to benefit somebody who's low mod income. The second one is it has to be spot blight removal or slum removal. And the third one is urgent need, such as addressing COVID. So spot blight, you know, people, you don't have to have that low mod income connection. You do have to be careful, because you can only use 30% of your funds on non-low income uses, but that's for me to worry about, not you.
Hey, Mary, Steve,
Hi.
thank you for sharing this with us. So could, under the category of maybe even urgent need or spot blight, could the removal of debris, i.e. Nip bottles, beer cans, et cetera, along 28 or Long Pond or any other neighborhood in this beautiful town, could that be considered part of a program?
I think that you would have to identify an address, right? If we were going to use it for under spot blight and slums. Let me take that back. You could do that under public services. Sorry.
Right. Yeah.
So you can do this under public services. Now I'll share the screen again. Okay. Public services, that line is $18,000. And that competes with Meals on Wheels and septic pumping. It doesn't mean we can't program that. And I might have to determine that neighborhood it's benefiting is low mod income. But again, that's
Yeah.
for me to worry about, not for you.
Right, right.
So it would be a small project, like $2,500. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we couldn't wipe out Meals on Wheels.
Yeah.
Mary,
And that's public service. Public service is capped at 15% of your allocation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can check to see if regular programming money, the non 15%, can be used in that way. There might be some
Yeah.
way we can finagle that, but I'll look into that.
Mary, have you been spending the $10,000 every year on this?
No, we haven't. I think the last time we spent it was definitely before 2010. We did have.
Have you been budgeting for it? Have you been budgeting for it in the action plan every year?
Yeah.
Then what happens to the money if you don't spend it?
Carried forward.
Yeah, it rolls over. So you have to spend a certain amount every year. You know, they have a formula. They tell you what you need to spend by April 30th. And then you get in there and you spend it. But like this year, my carryover is 140,000.
Okay, but then why is there no carryover from prior years for blight removal if you haven't been spending it? That's where I guess I'm confused by.
Because I always just take any connection to spot blight for that 10,000 and just put it back into the general pool.
So you can move the things around if you don't spend them fully in that category.
Yes.
Okay. With the spotlight, Mary, why the focus on 28? Like, is it because that's where most of it is? You know, I just wonder too, because it seems like, and maybe we don't have these, but even in some of the residential communities, especially where we've had some of the vacant, dilapidated, looks like some kind, housing that has been gone. I wonder if spot blight would help the removal and regeneration of those lots to spur more housing inventory on the market as well, and didn't know if that could possibly be used there as well. It's in those instances.
I don't think there's
a lot with an already septic system, already permitted, already have town water, right? That seemed like that would go really quick in today's market. So maybe help the removal of some of those housings with the help of the property owner might be helpful.
Yep, that's a good thought. I don't think we ever went
Anyone
that
else
way.
have any-
Excuse me, Peter. I don't think we ever went that way just
Nope.
because we have other funding for housing. Do you know what I mean? And we have so little for economic development.
Yeah,
I
but I'm
think
talking about,
that's-
this is market rate, right? Like, you don't have a lot of funding for market rate, right? To help these owners get the lot in a position to go ahead and be able to be sold, because the problem is buying the lot, removing the structure that's there, putting up the new structure, then becomes cost prohibitive. But what we're seeing in today's marketplace is the gap between resales and new construction is dwindling quickly. So you might be able to get some market rate housing in some of these low to moderate income areas to be able to help spur those neighborhoods. And that would help those neighbors a lot more than even in Route 28 blight.
And I think Peter had his hand up.
Yeah, Mary, the question I have is, in the couple of years past, we've hired a couple of people to trim and weed and stuff along Route 28. Could these folks, as Steve suggested, also help with picking up litter? Because there is so much litter, and maybe we should put a $10 deposit on every nip bottle.
It's getting unbelievable out there. It
No,
really is.
It's terrible. I mean, the nip bottles, even though they are quote unquote recyclable, they're too small. They don't fit, so that it just becomes additional trash. And clearly, people are just taking and putting it in their Coke and zipping off with it and throwing it out the window.
Yeah.
If I might, Peter, I think that question about the beautification team is probably better directed at Jeff Colby, who will be at the next meeting.
Okay. Okay. Well, what I was thinking is, could we use some of their money, meaning
Yes.
Mary's money, with the beautification team?
Yeah.
Or as you say, it's best to discuss that with Mr. Colby.
Oh yeah, that actually is probably a better question for Mary actually then, because I'm not sure what Cdbg would work with.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, I don't want to leave that thought yet. I know Mary wants to say something, and I'm going to jump in too. But Mary Wigan, yeah, just keep an open mind. I think that if there's a will on your behalf, there's a way, I think, with you and Jeff and people from this committee to get together, put our heads together and deal with this issue that's confronting us. Now, having said that, Mary, Philbon, I know I'm all for business. I want to help business in this community, but I think the owners of liquor store establishments need to step up just a bit with an educational aspect of thing. I'm nowhere near putting like sandwiches done, taking them out, but my God, when you walk around, every day it's worse and worse and worse. And I just think if they were to take an educational aspect, it's great to have the bins of nip bottles there and you're on your way out and throw a buck on the table and grab, whatever, how many you want. But there's also an obligation, I think, if you're going to sell them, say, hey, guys and gals, if you're going to buy this stuff, please don't litter. I mean, it probably doesn't do anything, but we gotta start someplace, I guess. So I'll shut up.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I support you on that, Steve. No, so two things I have. First, if you're not aware, the chamber is partnering with the town of Yarmouth, as well as the Friends of Bass River and the town and chamber of Dennis on April 17th to do our annual cleanup day. And we're doing it virtually, so you'll actually be able to log in, locate the destination where you're going to clean up, document how much you've cleaned up, put it in dumpsters around town that we've allocated. And so we're trying, because we want people to be proud of their community, but I'm taking your point, Steve, about working with the liquor stores, so thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Mary, probably like a month and a half, you and I have gone back and forth about helping the restaurants and hotels and their staff with their training programs that, it costs them. I think what we've gone back and forth with would be a benefit to the businesses if we could possibly reimburse them or, do that trainings. I think it's going to be a little onerous on them to have to go through the documentation that would be required for the amount of money that they're paying out. But I'm just curious if you think you're going to move forward with doing a program like that so we can promote it if you do.
Right. So I'll just update everybody. This would not be the budget I just showed you. This would be under our COVID-19 relief fund, where businesses, restaurants and hotels who had a financial hardship due to COVID-19, that restaurant could qualify for their low and moderate income workers to be trained with like the tip serve and the safe serve and the CPR certificates that might have expired out because they haven't worked in a year, to get their returning staff or their new staff, because they're going to have to hire new staff, some of them, trained with these programs. So we just, Mary, on the 18th, finished off our previous amendment to our COVID CDBG plan. So now I'll start the next one so that we can get some COVID relief money for that type of training. So I think it's a go. I just need to get it in front. Karen said yes, and I just need to get it in front of Bob Lawton to say yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And in the future, oh, sorry, Jen. And in the
No, that's
future,
okay.
Mary, we can do job training, but again, it's under that very small line of, public service. You know what I mean? That competes with a lot of other, requests for funding. They are, our national association for CDBG is asking HUD to suspend that 15% cap on public services. So they lobby them every year. So hopefully they would.
Mary, let me make sure I understood that. The training that you're talking about for tip certification and other certificates that a business owner might need and or their staff is now under the category of public service. It's not in one of those other business categories?
It would be a public service under the COVID money. So you can see our annual entitlement for CDBG is about $125,000 a year. but our COVID money was over 300,000. It was from the CARES Act.
Yeah,
So I think we have enough there to cover the budget that Mary Vilbin kind of came up with for training 100 people.
may I make a suggestion on that?
Mhm.
Several people I know in the restaurant business are recertifying. Some of their things have expired, and the large Portuguese population that works in our restaurants cannot take the test in Portuguese, but you can take it in Spanish. And I'm wondering if there's some way we can allocate funding so that it be translated into Spanish. The test is pretty rigorous. I mean, there's a proctor who watches you via Zoom, who checks your house, who makes sure you have nothing on your hands and on your table. It's quite a process to go through. Intimidating, I think, in some ways. And surprisingly, translated in Spanish, but not in Portuguese. Is there any
So-
way we could try to allocate some funds for that?
Yep, and we just procured a translation company just like a week ago. So perfect timing. I am seeing that this is the first time a CDBG program has received applications from households that don't speak English, that have limited English skills. And so I think we can do that. Thank you. I will follow up on that, Joanne,
Yeah.
and see if I can provide those services.
Mary, if I may, I'd like to thank you for coming in today. And I think we've discovered there are a lot of ways that we can use our funds and your funds in mutual beneficial ways. And I mean, I think we spent a bit of time on this, and I think we're going to move along. Does anybody else have any further questions for Mary Wagon?
Peter does.
Peter?
Joanne?
Well, while we're on your subject, Peter, I will now cede the chairmanship of this meeting to the chair who is now present. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate that, even with the sarcasm behind it.
Me, sarcastic?
Joanne, I think your idea is terrific, and Yarmouth is not the only community that has a large Portuguese population. And if we were to spend some money to get it translated into Portuguese, which I think is an excellent idea, I think we should be able to coordinate with Barnstable. Harwich, I know, has a large population. Provincetown, Truro has a huge population. So, you know, I think that would be good. Now, that my only little caveat, I'm assuming this test changes yearly.
Well, I only know this, offhandedly, but it's a national certification company.
Okay.
It isn't Massachusetts. It isn't a Fed. It's a national company that I think conducts these for tips and other things. So it's really trying to maybe get a pilot with them.
Right.
They translate into the Chinese. There are a long list of languages that they translate into. Portuguese is not one of them.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Again, on the East Coast and large chunks of California, there's huge Portuguese populations, and in Hawaii. So yeah, so if we can coordinate it with some other folks, and obviously if it's a national company, they're probably going to have to bless our translation as well.
Yep, and we were fortunate enough to find a translator that could do Portuguese and Brazilian Portuguese.
Yes, yeah, they're different, slightly different.
Which I found was, I don't know how we stumbled upon them, but they can do it. And we're very fortunate to have found them. Excellent. At a reasonable price. Well, thank you
Mary,
very much. Mm-hmm.
Mary, can you email me over that company?
Oh, it's telelanguage.
Okay, because we've been looking on real estate contracts and forms.
Yep, it's Manuela. I'll get you her email. They're out of like Portland, Oregon, or I don't know, Oklahoma. And what's nice is they'll not only do documents, they'll actually get on the phone with you and the person you're trying to talk to. So housing authorities use them a lot. That's how I found them. But and they do tons of different languages. So yep, I will get you that information, Ryan. That was great. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle,
Thank you.
next item on the agenda?
Thanks, Mary. The next item on the agenda is, hold on, let me just pull it up. It's the signage at 424 Route 28. So you guys have seen this signage, I don't know how many times before. I know I've seen it a bunch of times. This was another request from the Chamber of Commerce, but I think we've kind of talked about it in the past, and the committee generally supports the idea. You guys, to kind of give you a little trip down memory lane, you did have an account for signage previously when we were thinking about doing kind of a more encompassing town-wide signage project. You turned that back recently when we kind of realized that that's, we put the brakes on that project. But Mary did bring up that there's a desperate need for this particular sign at 424 Route 28, which is the Chamber of Commerce building, the rec building, and DNR. I guess, Mary, you can expand on it if you want, but it sounds like the sign's legit, like literally falling apart.
Oh, yeah.
So the idea is to kind of replace it in the same style as the signage that's down at Packet Landing. That's kind of the format for the town signage for these kind of places going forward. Same kind of signage at the gateways too, off the highways on the exits. I solicited quotes from 3 different sign companies. I just got one back from Simple Signs too. This was the quote we got back from Signorama. Haven't heard back from Plymouth Sign. So if you did want to go forward with this project, I'd probably recommend allocating about 6,000 for contingencies, and I don't know if this includes installation price. Doesn't look like it does. So I don't know if you have any questions, but this is what the overall mock-up looked like. Yeah.
So I make a motion in the amount of up to $6,000 for signage to replace the sign at the Chamber of Commerce.
That's
Second.
from physical improvement, Steve?
Yes.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further questions? I heard a question. Materials? What's going to be Kyle?
It's going to be the same materials as it is for Packet Landing.
Okay.
I have the specs somewhere. I don't think I have them here, but I used the same specs from that signage to solicit this quote. So whatever that material is, I'm not a sign expert. It's carved. It's going to have vinyl sleeves on the post caps.
Right. Is there any kind of a warranty? In other words, this will last 5 years, kind of thing?
Good question. I can ask.
Right.
Kyle, did they have any sense of a time frame?
No, I just got the
Second
quote. So didn't get any sense of a time frame, but I can't, I'll get on this right away. We'll have it up by the tourism season, or we should.
For those of you who don't know, that literally the sign in front of this building, a chunk of the bottom of it has fallen off.
Right.
And the posts are rotting.
That's unbelievable.
Right. Again, there's a motion on the table and a second. Are there any further questions from anyone? I'm not trying to rush it if anybody has a question. So Kyle, you're going to also try to generate some more bids, is correct?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to keep it local to the Yarmouth sign companies.
Absolutely, if we can.
So, I got 2 bids. I got Signorama and I got Simple Signs. The Signorama one was the lower one.
Okay.
And I'll go back to Plymouth Sign to give them another chance, but they're not very responsive, to be honest. So,
Okay.
But yeah, gonna try to keep it local, but yeah, I'll certainly bid it out.
Right. Okay, there's a motion, there's a second, and if there's no further questions, are we ready to vote on this?
Yes, sir.
All in favor, say aye, and we're going to do this by roll call. Steve, you're first.
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
good. Jack? Jack, yes, no? Doesn't
Yes.
me. Yeah, Jack says no. Joanne? Nod your head, your thing is off. Right, yes. Ryan?
Yes.
Okay, and I vote as well, positive. So the motion carries.
All right.
You're right, Mary, the sign does need to get redone, absolutely. Next item on the agenda?
The next item on the agenda is committee appointments to both the drive-in site and the design review committee. We held off on this last meeting until Jack was president. Jack is currently the appointee for both of those.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled to have somebody else take over.
Yeah, Jack has
If they
indicated
so wish.
he's more than willing to give up the post if anybody would like. I think Steve has indicated an interest in the drive-in site committee. I don't know if anybody else had any interest in either of them.
Yes, I'm still interested.
I mean, when do they meet?
Jack, you might be able to answer that better than I.
Yeah, the drive-in site, actually, they meet at very different times. It depends on availability. And of course, the chairman moves around, so he calls the meetings but he'll solicit comments if somebody wants a meeting at a particular time. It's more.
What about the other one?
Design review?
Yeah.
Sign review? Yeah, they, well, it depends when they have a project. You could check with, Kathy's the staff person on that, but again, it depends on the membership and what's good for the membership, you know?
They're kind of both at.
I guess my question is between 8 to 5 or outside of 8 to 5.
I think, well, Jack, you know, on design review, but planning board has a lot, we have a representative on that
Right,
as well. And that is driven strictly by demand by.
yeah, I
developers.
forget who it is, but
Yeah, they're both ad hoc. Ryan, the drive-in site, I think typically meets at 5, right, Jack?
yeah, and that, the planning board member on that is Chris, I think.
Yeah, Chris Vincent is on design review.
And Ryan, looks like design review meets at 4.
Okay. All right. I mean, I would have offered design review, but outside of that, no. I mean, if it was during the day, like earlier than 4, I would have done it during 8 to 5 kind of thing. But I've served on a town's design review board before, so I was gonna offer that if people needed, if Jack wanted off, but 4 o'clock meeting just hard with trying not to avoid things after 5 o'clock to be with the kids.
All right, so what I'm hearing is we've got one person interested in DISUC and not sure we have any takers for design review.
I make a motion to appoint Steve to DISUC as Jack doesn't hate me for it.
I think Jack is okay. I don't want to speak for him, but Jack, you're muted.
If the question was, do I have any particular love for either of those committees? I love serving on them, but enough is enough. I'm on this committee, those 2 committees, Cape Cod Commission, 2 committees there. I'm getting a little long in the tooth for this. But I appreciate anybody else that wants to serve on either one of those assignments. I would recommend them.
I make a motion to appoint Steve to drive and site utilization committee.
I'll second.
I'm not sure we need a vote on this, do we?
I think you do, or you should.
Okay, okay, there's a motion and there's a second. Any further discussion before Steve changes his mind? Hearing no questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Oh, I got to do this by roll call. Steve?
Yeah, yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
and myself. I vote as well. Steve, I think you do a great job on the drive-in site, and I think it's an extremely important place for the town
Thank
in
you.
many respects.
Thank you, Jackie and Steve.
Right.
Yep.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Is there anyone I can nominate to design review? Anyone? Takers? Anyone?
Ken's not here to defend himself.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's how I got my appointment.
Kyle, I mean, if we reappoint Jack to it, if Ken would be willing to, could we at the next meeting appoint Ken?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Then do we need to reappoint Jack then for the
No,
time being?
no, you don't need to reappoint him. He's the appointee
Okay.
as of the moment. So
Okay.
Thank
Then
you.
Jack, you better send Ken some gifts or something.
Seriously, I will carry on if no one else is interested.
Again, Jack, we very much appreciate all of your non-paying jobs. And you know, for me, I've got a ton of non-paying jobs right now, and I just can't take on anymore. But I do think design review would be, you know, very interesting and a fun one to be on. And I personally have no design. I don't have the design gene, so I'd be, you know, kind of, you know, blind leading the blind, if you will. I can tell you if it's ugly though.
So Peter, when I served on one before at another town, my goal on there was just to make it as less onerous on the business as possible to get away from all those architects that were on the review panel.
Yeah, that's not a bad thrust at all. Absolutely. Kyle?
Yep. So the next items are just committee member updates and staff updates.
Okay. Jack, you're on board.
Yeah, not much action on the design review. Nobody's building buildings within our domain, but the drive-in site committee, of course, as you realize, is embroiled in these. How long somebody could stay was the question. What's an extended period of time for the drive-in site? Because they didn't outlaw someone who wanted to come in and run several meetings over several different dates, or someone who wanted to carve out maybe 3 or 4 weeks for a certain project and so forth. As far as the commission is concerned, right now we have 3 DRIs that will be active soon in Yarmouth. There's a communications tower proposed for the chapel on 28, which is part of St. Pius Parish, the Lady of the Highway, I think is what they call it. And we have a company that wants to put a communications tower in their steeple. Of course, their present steeple won't accommodate a tower, but my understanding is I think they proposed this as a possibility a few years back, and at that time they were going to construct a suitable tower to house a communications antenna. So, and the other 2 are both on River Street. One is at 16 River Street, which is just off South Street, and the other one is at 103 down the other end of River Street. And both of them have been suggested as a DRI, and the provisional DRI. Anyone can propose, any elected official could propose, or appointed official can propose a DRI under the, they don't have to be necessarily referred by statute. And the one that they asked the question, usually they ask an opinion of the expert at the commission. Her name is Sarah Kojeff, and her title is historic preservation specialist planner, and she's pretty well versed.
Right.
Anyway, that's what's going on at the commission at the moment.
What do they want? What do they want to do? Just alter a couple of historic buildings. Sarah's very good. She's very bright.
Yeah, one of them, I think the one I read on 16 was they want to do renovations, and she was commenting on the fact that it was originally built in 1835 as a half cape, and because that whole area is a historic district. She said that, they could make an addition on the left-hand side, but it should not be, not have a facade that would compete with the authenticity of the main house. So it couldn't come forward to the same level as the facade of the historic section. Anyway, I'll keep you up to date. I'm not sure how it's going to happen, but normally anything in the town representative is on the committee, and most often is the chair of the committee. I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
That's my report. Thank you.
Steve, you had a question?
Yeah, no, just a couple of points. One is if we could get Jeff to come to the next meeting, give us an update on the town common, and also maybe give us an update on the fence along Forest Street down by, I think, 267 or so, around that neck of the woods. It's falling down. So along with the nip bottles and the fence, it's just looking really shady there. And it was somebody threw a diaper out as well. So if we can get an update on this, and you're right, Mary, you're shaking your head. I'm just amazed at how sloppy some people are, and I don't know how you deal with it, but maybe we just got to keep banging away at educational items somehow. And the other thing is, I just had an idea I want to launch by you, and I hope if anyone wants to join me, I'd like to sit down with Kyle, Jeff Colby, and Mary Wagon. Anyone else wants to come along, but I had this idea of extending, if you will, the beautification committee in regards to if there's any graffiti, but certainly the cleanup. The nip bottles got me going crazy here. So I was thinking back in my old days in Worcester, we had problems with cleanup, with graffiti. So we created this team. We used block grant money to fund part of it, along with tax levy money. The idea was to set up a crew, and the crew would go around. They had their own truck, and all their mission in life was, and I think it was like 2 or 3 people. It was augmented by summer kids during the summertime, go around and clean up graffiti. The health department, the code department would point out these spots, and they'd go around and clean them up. If it was tagged the next day, they'd go back and get it again. And they would also pick up debris, rubbish and all that stuff. So just thought we could maybe expand the beautification committee, and it looks like we have some potential funding sources here to do just that. And I just think it needs a sustained effort, particularly as people are getting out more now. The weather's heating up, and along with the good weather comes the beers and everything else goes with it. So, and you're driving down the road, which just freaks me out, people driving and throwing that crap out the road. It's just going to need a sustained effort, I think, not just to once. I applaud Mary, everything that you're doing with that virtual cleanup day too. But this needs something in addition to that. That's all. So maybe we can kick that off at the next meeting with Jeff Colby.
Great idea, Steve.
Thanks.
Steve, if you could just email me the location of that fence you were referencing, so I can make sure Jeff is prepared to speak to it at the next meeting.
She will do. Yep.
Right, cool.
Anything else on the agenda?
Can I just bring up something?
Absolutely.
Kyle, the wastewater meeting is on Monday, right? Monday at 4, is that correct?
Yep.
So you guys might be interested in some of the conversation that's happening right now. The town might be in the position where they're going to have to make a decision if the DHY agreement doesn't go through, where Yarmouth might have to do it alone. So if you're interested in what's happening, I would suggest that you come to the discussion on Monday if you can. And if not, watch the select board meetings when they're having the discussion about it.
For what reason? So about a couple weeks ago, Chris Flanagan, the Dennis Select Board Chair, and I were talking about this, and he thought that everyone was putting off approval till the fall just to make sure meetings were in person and all that, but that everyone was going to put DHY actually approval off till then.
If I can jump in, I think the problem was Dennis thought that was the case, and that was never communicated to Yarmouth. It was always the intention that these would be at the same town meeting, all three towns at once, and Yarmouth kind of found out. I think the selectmen kind of felt blindsided by the fact that Dennis pushed it off to the fall. And frankly, I'm very frustrated that that's the case. And the reason is that they can't do public outreach and this and that. This project's been going on for 4+ years now. We did a virtual DHY outreach session, which we got 100 people to attend virtually. That's way more than we would have ever gotten anybody to show up at town hall. So to say that we can't do it because
I don't think that's the reason, Kyle. Like, call me tomorrow and we can talk about that.
Yeah, well, I've also talked to the Dennis selectmen about it because I have a good relationship with Paul McCormick, and it's just a lot of hurt egos and hurt feelings by the Dennis Finance Committee and by the Yarmouth Board of Selectmen, and it's very frustrating that egos and political reasons are getting in the way of common sense. That's all I'll say.
Steve, Mary, what time is this Monday that you're talking about?
4 p.m.
4 p.m.
And then Harwich has not even decided whether they want to be a part of it yet. They agreed to put it on the warrant, but they weren't even recommending it yet.
Yep.
So don't forget, Yarmouth has got a timeline because of the Mass DOT project coming down 28, where we can save millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So we're in a very
without worrying about where the treatment plan is, right? Like for the DOT project.
Kyle, is that the case?
No matter what, it's just where they're treating the sewer.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but we got to get started on the project in order to coordinate with the timelines that Mary's talking about. And if we're pushing off the DHY discussion until the next town meeting and the next town meeting because of COVID, I mean, COVID conditions are here to stay. So I think that's very foolish to be continuing to push off these things to the next town meeting and the next town meeting. It's very short.
And April 14th, we actually have an update to our membership around DHY. The guy who's coming, Kyle?
Dave Young from CDM.
Yeah, Dave Young is doing it with, and Jeff, I think, are both doing it together to our membership, targeting all the realtors in Yarmouth, Dennis, and Harwich, which is like, several hundred. We just did it for Barnstable yesterday because Barnstable's moving forward with their a sewer assessment ordinance. They are looking at now in their 3-phase expansion of, on average, $17,000 assessment over 30 years on the tax bill, on the quarterly tax bills for those who have sewer run by them.
And I got some updates, Mr. Chairman. If no one else, did Joanne have any updates?
Joanne, you have any updates?
I had one planning board update. We did meet last week and we received the preliminary data from all of our visioning surveys and workshops. That's being summarized by our consultant. And interestingly, the statements that came out from the community were in some contrast to what the selectmen's mission statement is that annually comes out around September. The mission statement relates to essentially the cost-effective delivery of town services. That's what the town should be focusing on. That is not what the people have said to us, although they do like their tax rate to stay as low as possible. It's more about protecting our town, its resources, its people, a much softer human look-see at what the town of Yarmouth could be in the future than might appear in kind of a black and white mission statement that now exists for the town. So we're plowing through a lot of that information, getting some more details. But the underlying comment was about our taking care of the town and all of our resources, both physical and natural. and learning to appreciate and protect them in a better way. So interesting first results. Excuse me.
And along that line, when Mr. Colby comes, the town planted some beautiful trees along Forest Street, by the dump, recycling center. And a number of them have gotten hit, knocked down. Be nice if they replanted some of those trees along there, because in the springtime when they're all in bloom, it's extremely pretty.
Yeah.
And that's got to be short money to replant those trees, I would think.
Yeah.
Kyle, anything else?
Yeah, so a few quick updates from me. Mary referenced the restaurant training tonight. I have been in contact with Tom Murphy of the Yarmouth Restaurant Association. He's not available at the moment, but I'm going to touch base with him in another couple weeks. I guess the town used to sponsor some sort of, I don't know exactly what it was. I think it was like tips training or something that if people took this one course that the town put on, they could save money on their tips recertification. It didn't happen last year because of COVID, but I'm offering to help to try to put it on virtually if possible. So we're talking about that. We're also talking about the I forget. There's two things I was talking to him about with trying to help the restaurants on a couple of virtual programs. So stay tuned on that. On the topic of broadband, I've been working hard to try to spend the town's $100,000 community compact IT grant to hook up our municipal buildings to fiber optics. We're finally getting to the point that we're going to work up a contract and hopefully get it signed. So we're going to be hooking up 5 different municipal buildings, and the kind of idea is hopefully it sets the stage that in the future those kind of connection points could be expanded into commercial and residential access. It's possible, I'm not sure yet, it's possible that there's going to be a small amount over the 100,000 that's going to be needed for the project, and we might be coming to you guys to see how you'd feel about funding that remainder. It'd probably be less than 10,000 kind of thing, but stay tuned on that. I've been starting a business outreach kind of initiative in response to what we heard in the visioning exercise with the business community about them not feeling heard or cared about enough from the town. So I've been trying to kind of put a personal touch on things by making personal visits to people, giving them my business card and letting them know, I'm here at town hall to help for anything that they need. I have been able to fix a couple problems, while I've been out, small sign problems or stuff like that. But more or less, it's just to kind of get out there and put a face on the name kind of thing and let people know I do care about them and I am here to help. So it's been well received. I think I've hit about 30 businesses so far. I'm going to hit probably 30 more in the next couple of days, and my plan is just to kind of keep doing it periodically, forever, in perpetuity.
Right. Right. And Kyle,
yeah,
kudos for doing this. This is fantastic, and it's good to show. And I was going to make a joke about I'm from the government, I'm here to help, but I won't do that. But you're right. Putting a face behind the name and stuff like that makes a huge difference. So again, no sarcasm at all. Congratulations and thank you very much for doing that.
Well,
and I've thanked Kyle a couple of times for it. He's done an amazing job, and we've heard from the business community already. Hey, this guy Kyle came by. Do you know him? And so, thank you, Kyle. Great.
Kyle, if I could just weigh in too. Oftentimes, the only time you hear from the government is when there's a problem. So to be proactive is a real good step in the right direction. You're going to get a lot of goodwill, as Mary just indicated and Peter just indicated, going forward. So congratulations, good work.
Oh, thank you, guys.
Good job, Kyle.
Another good news to share is that we were recently featured in a Business View magazine article. Kind of highlights all the great things that Yarmouth does. They haven't fully published this article yet, so I haven't been able to promote it on the town social media and whatnot yet, but I will. And they're going to give us kind of a brochure version of this article that we can use to promote the town going forward. So this was a no-cost thing for the town, and it came out really well. I can send you, I don't know, did I already send you the article? If I haven't already sent you the article, I can send it to you, but came out well. So puts it down in a good light. And then my last update is I did get started on trying to add some action items to your goals per your discussion at the last meeting. I do think I'll need to bring this to you guys at a future meeting so you guys can, I took a stab at adding action items, but you guys really need to be the ones that let me know what you foresee as the action items for these goals. So maybe not at the next meeting because we're going to have that Jeff Colby discussion and discussion on the Fifth Element contract. But maybe the next meeting we revisit the goal discussion. So just wanted to make you aware of that. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Anybody have some new business that's not outside of private meeting? Excuse me, not private meeting, open meeting. Mary?
The only other thing on the agenda is the minutes too.
Okay, that's right. Yes. Last
Make a
item.
motion.
Can I just bring up one more thing, and that is the Trpf contract with the chamber. We were able to sign the contract last week, so now we'll get things ramping up. And it looks like we'll be working closely with Kyle on that this year, a little closer than in the past. So I'm happy to say that will be a great partnership.
Yep.
It's a little touchy right now when the Board of Health is on Fox News and NBC News announcing that Yarmouth is in the red,
Yeah.
the second highest in the state for the chamber to be promoting tourists to come here. It's a bit of a challenge for the chamber to have to do that. So we're kind of doing it very gingerly right now in launching because we know we need to do it on behalf of our businesses, but at the same time trying to make sure everyone is safe. On Monday, we had 78 people here in the visitor center. And today I think we were over 65. While a lot of the people coming in are getting their beach and dump stickers, we are definitely seeing tourists here already. So I think we're really going to have a big season.
Got an update, Kyle, too. I haven't brought many recently, but the regional COVID response task force that I've been serving on, we are repositioning to economic recovery.
Cool.
As the primary driver there, and really focusing along the lines of the economic recovery and then the child care aspect of the economic recovery, as that is really the one holding it back. So they're regionally working on several things related to those issues there. And they're still frantically every week trying to get as much vaccine here as possible. So
Nice.
Hey, Ryan.
if you have questions about any of that, feel free to reach out to me about the vaccine stuff and I can get you the answers if some people don't have the answers they need.
Ryan, are they letting J1 and H2Bs in at full capacity or is it limited?
No, it is very limited, and that was the topic of the conversation. That's the issue. So, Mary, if you have it to Kevin Howard as working part of the chamber, he is working on several things this year. They are in the process of putting together finalization of a bus schedule to bus hospitality workers in from Boston. So if bigger places on a daily basis, they have a lot of big companies itching to do that since the Boston hospitality sector has not been come back yet. So they are working on a plan around that for some of the larger employers and stuff like that. Because there is still caps on the J1 and the H1B1 visas. So they're not expecting that to relieve in time to be able to get enough workers for the summer. Wendy was reporting that there are lots of businesses that are talking about not being able to open at all this summer if they don't figure out the worker issue.
Yep.
Yeah, one of my customers who will, of course, remain unnamed, usually hires 50 to 55 folks. He's got 30. So he's
so there's going to be some cost associated with the busing thing. That might be something that we think about from, I don't know whether it's Cdbg. I wish I would have thought about and brought it up earlier, but Kyle, something for you guys to talk about there a grant opportunity with some of these funds available to help these folks get in Yarmouth, the businesses in Yarmouth, if they do participate in some kind of worker brought in program from Boston or something like that to help offset the cost of getting those workers here.
All right, yeah, do you know of any places that are doing something like that?
They're working on trying to find the funding all around. So I will, I'll just put it back in the bug in people's ears and have them maybe reach out to you, whoever's in charge of that, to see if there is a potential for that somehow. I'm literally thinking about that as I'm talking right now. So
All right,
first
sounds
time.
good, yeah. One other quick update I forgot, if you guys give me just 1 second, is we also put out these new business and permitting guide 1-page brochures. So we do have the longer, I think it's like 10 to 15 pages, more comprehensive permitting guide. But for my visits to people, I've been giving them this one little like trifold thing, gives people the key town contacts, so like a brief overview of the permitting process, little info on Yarmouth, just a little quick trifold thing. So I actually used some of our supply money from the tourism fund to purchase these. They weren't very much from Winker Printing. So
Kyle, can you get some of those over to us?
yeah, I actually been meaning to do that. I just haven't been in the office that much, but absolutely.
Just even put it in the inter-office mail if you want. Ruthie
All right,
can get it.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Any more updates or anything? So move
Just
on to
I guess
the,
that you guys are good to go.
well, okay, no, we're not good to go because we've got the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Um, Waiving the reading of the minutes? Hearing yes. There's a motion on the table and there's a second, I'm assuming, somewhere.
Second,
Joanne made a second. Motion and there's a second. Are there any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Steve, I'll start with you.
Yes.
Ryan? Ryan?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jack?
Abstain.
Jack abstained, and Joanne
yes.
and myself approved. So the motion carries. Next meeting is coming up.
April 8th. And like I said, we'll have Jeff Colby in to talk beautification team and Yarmouth Port Common and the items that Steve
Last
referenced.
thing here, I was reporting on it last couple months, but just to let y'all know, there's 25 single family homes for sale in Yarmouth today.
Wow.
That's what, usually a quarter of what's usually for sale? Or is that a lot?
More than that. Last year, this time there was 130.
Holy mackerel.
But that's one more than last time you reported.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the house, I'm pointing to the house next door to me.
Got it.
It went on the market actually on a Monday, but they had a like a pre-open house on Sunday, and it was sold that Monday. Or
Wow.
an offer was accepted, and it's sale pending right now.
Wow.
Good to see the Compass Rose. Looks like the new owners are making investments in it already.
They're
The Compass Rose
fantastic.
is spending probably $1 bazillion on that septic system and the pumping station to pump it up to their leach fields in the parking lot.
All that whole renovation is just septic. It's nothing else.
No, she said they're going to be doing the pool down in the basement. They're going to be redoing all of that as well.
Okay.
Because the former owner closed the pool.
Yep.
That's because of massive humidity and problems that the humidity caused in the rest of the building. So I don't know. I hope the new owners do well. I mean, it's a very nice property when it's up and operating and stuff.
So they own multiple properties across the Cape, if you don't know that.
Who are
Who is it?
I'm not going to remember. So the name of they own an inn in Dennis, and I think they own another one in Brewster.
Oh.
Do you know the name of the company? Or-
I'm not going to remember. I'm sorry, Ryan.
Is it the people that own the Dennis Inn, which also own the thing right there, the gallery, the Bosari Gallery too, and all that?
I'm
And
not
Treats
going to.
Gatorade?
I have her name in my database. I don't have it in front of me. But
No
so they're
problem.
very familiar with the industry, and they're familiar with Cape Cod, and they're extremely successful. So
Oh, good.
yeah.
Right. Mary, you're very good at the next motion.
And it's my favorite part. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second that.
Right. Any
Second
further,
from Jack.
Jack seconded that. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Hearing none. Steve, you're first.
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Joanne.
Yes.
I'm not saying yes because I want this